What's up, guys? Welcome to Blue Presents a podcast where I discuss all things music and how it affects my life. And today, man, I am talking about bands who've changed Vocalist, and I'm putting a little bit of a twist on it, man. I'm going to tell you whether I think the changed work or if it didn't. But before we get into that, man, I just want to say thank you guys. Took a week off, man. Enjoyed some time with the wife and family. Me and my wife just celebrated 1 year of being married, so shout out to us. If I can toot my own horn. But other than that, guys, man, I just want to say thank you for the continued support. Even though I didn't have shows up, man, you guys were still listening. I thought that was awesome, man. It was kind of cool to see that people were still listening, even though I didn't have a new show up, and that's awesome. So thank you, guys. And once again, man, if you'd like to be a guest on my show, or you'd like to have one of your show suggestions used as a show, hit me up on the Facebook, on the Instagram, Blue Presents a Podcast, Twitter at Podcast2Blue. Thank you guys so much. And like I said, man, we are making some new changes coming up soon, man. I'm really hoping to have some merch coming up soon, man. So stick around for that. I'll be letting everybody know once I kind of get an idea of what I want to do. But before we get started, man, listen to my man, AJ Pelletier, tell you why you should be listening to the Roads We Travel podcast.
Hey everyone, AJ Pelletier here, and I'm here to talk to you about my podcast, The Roads We've Traveled. It's a podcast where every week I talk to guests and friends from music, art, comedy, and more about their journeys through life, their struggles, their joys, and everything in between. You also get to know a little bit more about me and my journey as well. So if you like podcasts about good conversations about life, or maybe you're just looking to relate to somebody about some things you may be going through as well, then The Roads We've Traveled is the podcast for you. Subscribe to us today on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you guys get your podcasts from. Check us out and subscribe to us on YouTube. And check us out at facebook.com/Roads We've Traveled podcast. All right, everyone. Thanks.
All right, guys, let's get in the meat potatoes of today's show, man. And I am talking about bands that have changed their singer. Now, sometimes when a band changes singers, you sometimes get a new dynamic, a new style. You get something you didn't get in the last incarnation with the last vocalist. And sometimes it changes a band for the better. Sometimes it changes a band for the worst. Sometimes you're kind of left like, meh, it's whatever, man. And like I said, these are just a few bands that I picked through and thought about how they started, thought about how the end product what that end product sounded like, what it became. And then I'm also going to tell you guys if I personally think that it worked. So the first band we're going to talk about is Emarosa. Now Emarosa started with Chris Rotier, who is now the vocalist of Like Moths to Flame. And then from Chris Rotier to Johnny Craig, which, at the time he had just gotten kicked out of Dance Gavin Dance. And then would eventually get kicked out of this band. And then they ended up with Bradley Walden, which I don't know how that's going to go right now. He's entrenched in a little bit of controversy. They started out metalcore with Chris and then turned into a technical post-hardcore band with Johnny Craig. And then with Bradley, I think they became more of a pop rock kind of outfit. Which in my opinion, I think it worked. I think that they are still around today because, their change to Bradley was a good one, and he's a strong vocalist, a great singer. And I really think that a lot of people enjoy what they do now. Me personally, I did enjoy the Johnny Craig time. I think it was some of Johnny Craig's best, vocals. And I don't know. Like I said, I think this one worked. So the next band I'm going to talk about is Ocean's 8 Alaska. This is a band I really, really like. I really love. And their first vocalist was James Harrison. And then it was Jake. I'm going to say this wrong. Nokex. Probably said it wrong. I apologize in advance. And these guys started out like progressive, metalcore, very experimental. I think James's vocals I think his screaming was good, but my problem was, I think when his singing voice, a lot of his accent carried through. So some of his diction, there you go, that's the word I was looking for. Some of his diction when it came to singing kind of sounded awkward and different, but also kind of gave it its own flavor. Now, fast forward to Jake in 2017, and they pretty much kind of stayed the same, but they added that smooth R&B sound, which Jake just absolutely shines as a singer. His screaming is fine. It's not, I don't think it's anything like standout, but the singing and the screaming together, that beauty and, brutality kind of fits each other, kind of complements each other. And I think Jake does a great job. And yes, I do think that this works. It gave Ocean's 8 Alaska a new dynamic, a new sound, and it kind of just changed everything up. And then not to say that James wasn't good and that they weren't going in a direction, because I was obviously a fan when James was on, but I do think Jake took it just to another level and added something that maybe they didn't know they needed. So my next band is another band that I really truly enjoy, and it's For the Fallen Dreams. And then they started out with Chad Rugula, and then it went to Dylan Richter, and then back to Chad. So Chad was on their very first record, Changes, which for me, literally, pun intended, definitely changed my perspective on what metalcore could be, how you can add melodic and still be heavy as all hell, because these guys had great melodic parts. Even though Chad doesn't sing at all, it was like super great. But I will say, when they dropped their next album with Dylan Richter, I think it added something that I don't think I was either ready for or didn't know I wanted, and that was their choruses. Because once again, this band is extremely melodic, even though they're very heavy as well too. I think Dylan added something that was really, really just, I think it was needed, man. It was really good. And like I said, I think he added something. Now, my problem with it was the third album they did with Dylan, which was Wasted Youth. And I really just felt like, and I don't know what was going on with him. And once again, these are just my opinions. I'm not stating these as fact, but I do feel like either he was over being in For the Fallen Dreams, or he had a very strange relationship with it. It was a record that I don't think fit what For the Fallen Dreams was. So he exited in 2013, and then very rarely does it happen, but Chad comes back, and they kept going with what they did, and they kept the singing. And I think as they got moving forward, I think the next two records really just shined, melodic wise, singing wise. And I definitely feel like Chad being back in the band just adds something to it. I've always been a huge fan of his vocals. So yeah, For the Fallen Dreams. And yes, I do think it worked. I think it worked when Chad was in the band. I think it also worked a little bit for when Dylan was in the band. I think the two records that followed were great. And then, like I said, Wasted Youth, I just was not into it. Just wasn't one of my favorite For the Fallen Dreams records. But I think they came back once Chad entered the scene again. So the next band I'm going to talk about is Attack Attack. And I'm sure a lot of people really don't like this band for a lot of things. But I think that some people need to recognize the impact that this band has left on actual, I would have to say, the metalcore, post-hardcore scene as well, too. So they started out with Austin Charlie from 2007 to 2008, which was, it was that first record was impactful. It was amazing. Electronic, very techno, auto-tuned. And then Austin Charlie's screams were really great. And then from there, you had Caleb, and Caleb, who was already in the band. So while they did change vocalist, Caleb was already in the band. and he just became the front man. And I think it took it to a whole nother level until the last album, to which they went like, I don't even know, like post rock, post hardcore, post whatever the fuck that was, you know what I'm saying? And I think it was really the most attack thing that they did, because that second album was absolutely amazing. Caleb's voice was powerful, it was strong, and the singing was really, 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 really good. But yeah, no, for this one, I like I said, I think it worked until the end, and then, you know, this band kind of went left, and a lot of members left and stuff like that. But I think this vocalist change did work well as well. Now, the next one is a pretty fucking big thing, and I think it kind of changed the course of this band's history forever when this vocal change happened. And it's Under Oath, man. Dallas Taylor, who was in the band from 1997 to 2003, and then to Spencer Chamberlain. Now, when they first started, man, they were definitely presenting more of a deathcore, grindcore, just absolutely banging whatever they could. And then they kind of transitioned into that post-hardcore with that electronica sound during that like 2001, 2002-ish era. And then, you know, they dropped their first record, if I'm not mistaken, When the Sun Sleeps is what that's called. Don't quote me on that. I think so. Pretty positive about it. Anyways, it was an amazing, phenomenal record. Dallas's voice, it just was very high pitched, that very pterodactyl, very 2003, 2004 vocals that everyone seemed to love about that band. And then, you know, their next record, Spencer becomes the vocalist, and I think it gave it in an even like crazier dynamic, because for as high arcing as Dallas Taylor's vocals were, Spencer Chamberlain's was like another class of that high, just absolutely insane. Just I would listen to it and think, wow, he gets so fucking high. And then just the progression of the way this band has gone. And I think Spencer has gotten better and better and better, record after record after record. Even on their latest record, where they kind of like, this was their first record that they had a cuss word in, and kind of showed us that they had changed some of their religious views and stuff like that, which that's none of my business, man. I'm just judging on the vocalist talents. And I think this was one of those ones that was not only, yes, it worked for Under Oath, I think it was game changing for Under Oath, because Spencer became such a dynamic vocalist and just did so many things. And like I said, record after record after record, he got better and better and better. All right, guys. So the next band I'm going to talk about is Bless the Fall, who started out with Craig Mabbitt from 2004 to 2007. And then, I'm going to say it wrong, Boken from 2008 to current. Now, Bless the Fall is another band that kind of started really changing that sound, mixing that electronica with somewhat, if you can really think about it, somewhat of that early R&B influence when it comes into metalcore. And I think Craig Mabbitt's vocals were absolutely amazing, as well as his singing was so on point. And it was crazy. It was just like, wow. And then when he left the band, if I'm not mistaken, to join Escape the Fate, they brought in Bew. And I think Bew is a great, amazing vocalist. I think he definitely added something that was different. He was more, I don't want to say traditional vocalist. I think he was more of a vocalist that kind of fit that sound. And even now with their records, he still has an amazing singing voice. And his vocals are extremely well put together. The songs are catchier. And then it's not to diss anything Craig did, because I definitely think Craig on that first record had some absolute bangers. But obviously he would experience more success with Escape the Fate and whatnot. But Blessed to Fall still goes today, man, and those guys are kicking ass. So the next band on my list is the band of Mice and Men, and once again, Austin Charlie is on this list. And he was the vocalist and actually the founding member of Mice and Men from 2009 to 2010. And then, you know, unfortunately, he had to deal with some health situations and some issues that he was going through. And they have probably who I think is one of the most underrated vocalists ever, Aaron Pauley, who was originally of the band Jamie's Elsewhere. And I was absolutely a huge fan of Jamie's Elsewhere until he left. And I don't know. It just blew my mind. You know, he joined Of Mice and Men in 2011, and has been their vocalist, once Austin kind of, you know, went down with his issues. And now those guys present themselves a little bit more in that, rock and roll, new metal-ish kind of sound. Still not bad. I still think Aaron Pauley, like I said, has got one of the best vocals. And I think he does a really, really good job. And if you haven't ever heard Jamie's Elsewhere, you should really listen to that, because I think that's really some of his best vocals. But yeah, no, I think this one works for them. I think they've experienced more success now that he's fronting the band. It's not to say that they wouldn't have if Austin Charlie was in it. It just, you know, he had health issues, and it was what it was. Now, the next band I'm going to talk about, I have said on this show that I have strong reservations about this fucking vocal change. Okay. And it is Killswitch Engage, and it's Jesse Leach, who was the vocalist from 99 to 2002 and returned back in 2012. And Howard Jones, who was the vocalist for Killswitch Engage for 10 years, from 2002 to 2012. Okay. So let's break this down. I have said this before, and I will say it again. Howard Jones established the identity of Killswitch Engage. While he did not start in Killswitch Engage, and while I think, you know, Adam D definitely is a driving force, I think when you talk about frontmen, vocalist, and no disrespect to Jesse Leach, because to be honest with you, since he's returned, his vocals have changed leaps and bounds. He's, you know, amazingly powerful vocalist, a great singer. It's just, my problem is Howard Jones is just, he's just that guy. Like, seriously, he legit is just that guy. You know, his vocals are very strong, very powerful, very soulful, very just, like I said, man, this is, it's going to sound terrible. This is LeBron James and Michael Jordan. While LeBron James is a really, really good player, and he will probably go down as the number 2 or number 3, depending on who you're talking about, best basketball players in the world, he will still never be Michael Jordan. And Howard Jones is Michael Jordan, and Jesse Leach is LeBron James. Okay. Both are very good in their own right. Both do amazing things, but one is just head and shoulders better. And I, you know, like I said, I still enjoy Killswitch Engage. I still love them. I wasn't too happy with the new record, but I did find some songs that I did enjoy. But for the most part, it's hard for me to accept this band when Howard left a mark, a stain, just an absolute mark on this band. And to be honest with you, and this is going to shock everybody, I don't think he sounds good in the band that he's in now. I just don't think that Light the Torch is a Howard Jones kind of band. And this is crazy to say that. Some people are like, well, you know, Light the Torch and whatever the case is. Crazy amount of talent in that band, but I do not think it fits Howard Jones. That's just me. That's just how I see the world. I love like I said, still love Killswitch Engage. I have a ton of respect for Jesse. I have a ton of respect for Howard Jones, but I feel like these guys are in the wrong band. Enough said. That's it. Okay. All right, guys. So I have 2 more bands I'm going to talk about. And the next band probably has the most I wouldn't say controversial, but they have some fucking issues when it comes to Vocalist. And we're going to go through it. All right. So the next band I'm going to talk about is Dance Gavin Dance, which I'm sure some people are like, what the fuck? I don't care what anybody has to say. Dance Gavin Dance is one of those bands that is experimental, life-changing. Some people get it, some people don't. That's okay, man. Not every band is for everybody. Certain people don't understand why this band is successful as they are. I think it's due to wacky lyrics, extremely technical music, the weeds. As someone told me once, some people are down with it, some people aren't. So let's just run through it because these guys, whew. Anyways, Vocalist changes are like Dance Gavin Dance changing underwear, man. They are frequent and crazy. So first we start out with Johnny Craig, 2005 to 2007. And let's be honest, that right there is something hard to change. While Johnny Craig as a human being has done some really bad things in his life, and seems to sometimes continue to keep doing those bad things, unfortunately. He is a once-in-a-generation vocalist that some people will never understand his success, his popularity, but unfortunately it's one of those things where someone who's this talented getting chance after chance after chance despite the negative things that they do in their lives. And I'm not going to sit here and go on a tirade about Johnny Craig. Like I said, I am a huge fan of Johnny Craig. I'm a huge fan of his singing. I attempt to model myself as a singer around some of the techniques that he does, but he is very hard to follow and he's very just a dynamic vocalist. So from 2005 to 2007, he was their vocalist until he was kicked out, like he was kicked out in Emarosa. And then they had Kurt Travis from 2007 to 2010. Now, some people feel really strong about Kurt Travis. Some people fucking hate this guy, and I don't know why. I don't think he was a Johnny Craig level of a vocalist. I still think he was a good singer. I still think he provided some great dynamics to Dance Gavin Dance, and also even him doing some of the old Johnny Craig stuff, which you think would be an issue for this guy. He actually did really good, and I'm actually surprised some of the videos I was actually able to see him sing. And they told me I invented New Times Roman, which is one of those songs that just Johnny Craig is just synonymous for. But Kurt Travis actually has a really, really, really good version of that song, of him covering it. So from there, 2007, 2010, Kurt Travis, back to Johnny Craig in 2010 to 2012, which, sweet Jesus, Johnny Craig, man. Anyways, we're just going to skip that whole thing because it's marred in more controversy. To now, who I think is another vocalist who just is head and shoulders above as a singer, like absolutely amazing singer, Tillian Pearson. I don't even know what to say about him. He's just a god level tier of a singer, just a singer. Okay. He's absolutely just everything I enjoy about that style. He's almost soulful. He's R&B like Johnny Craig. He just has a range, and I don't think there's anything he couldn't sing. There's probably a lot of things he could probably make a lot more interesting than just Tillian Pearson just singing. So for me, like I said, just an amazing fucking vocalist. And do I think this vocal change worked? Fuck yes, it worked, man. Tillian Pearson, I think, has put them on a new level. The new sound that they have, the last few records that they put out has been one strong banger after one strong banger after one strong banger, man. He, like I said, is just a head and shoulders above vocalist, and I think he was the correct guy to insert into this project and continue this band's legacy of being dynamic, being interesting, being experimental. And once again, I could go on and on and on, but I won't here. So yes, I do think it worked. All right, so the last band I'm going to talk about is probably, I think, one of those bands that still continues to be amazing as a metalcore band, amazing as a live show performers, and it's August Burns Red, man. So we're going to start out with their first vocalist, who was John Hershey from 2003 to 2004. And then Josh McManus, who was the vocalist from 2004 to 2006. I believe this was the Thrill Seekers EP album. I'm not sure. I definitely, first time, a friend of mine was telling me about how the guitar work was amazing in this record. I could not listen to this record because this man's vocals were just not good to me. Not good. Different strokes for different folks, man. Hey, once again, like I said, these are just my opinions. You can tell me to go, fluff a duck or whatever. Doesn't really matter. It is what it is. But the next change would be Jake, who is their current vocalist. And this man's vocals are, just as a screamer, really dynamic. They have evolved. They started out kind of rather monotone, modern metalcore, the usual. I can hit a couple highs, a couple lows, a couple in the middle, to him transitioning to being able to have a wide range, a plethora of screaming, dynamic vocals, and for him to just be the vocalist doing all variations of screams. He's really excelled, and in the last few albums has come so fucking far as a screamer, as a frontman, and their live shows are just absolutely packed full of energy, and he brings it every fucking time. Just one of those bands you love to see evolve, and still be that band you remember when you first heard them, So yeah, man, just August Burns Red. What Jake does is just absolutely amazing. And I think that this is one of those bands that, it's going to sound crazy, but maybe 10 years from the road, they're still putting out music. That would be insane. But the way that they're passionate about what they do, the way that they evolve within the music, man, it could be a real thing. We could have a 20-year metalcore band, we'll have to see in, I guess it would be, 2023? So what, like 3 years? Holy shit. Yeah, that would be insane. That's not even that hard to do nowadays. Like, now that I think about it, that's like 3 years away, basically. Anyways, don't mind me. I'm just thinking and wondering, in wonder about this whole situation. But anyways, guys, man, hit me up and tell me what you think are some vocalist changes that you thought were amazing. Maybe some vocal changes that you didn't really enjoy, that kind of took you way out of the band. Because, vocalist changes are just as dynamic as, guitarists, drummers, insert, whatever contributing artist, because sometimes a lot of people don't realize that, when you change a guitar, sometimes you get a new person who comes in and it's just like, let me show you something that I've been working on. And it kind of changes that sound. But also sometimes, when you bring in a vocalist, they kind of change the dynamic of the band. Emarosa is a good example. Emarosa started out metalcore. You bring in Johnny Craig, you get post-hardcore, and then you bring in Bradley, and you become like an alt-rock kind of band. And it kind of just changes everything that you do. Or you're lucky and you get bands like August Burns Red, who were already technical, and just needed a good vocalist, a strong vocalist to kind of carry them from that next step. And like I said, they continue to keep evolving. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, guys, hit me up. Let me know what you guys think, man. Thank you guys for listening to today's show, man. I greatly appreciate it, man. And hit me back next week, man.